we'll do the live thing first. Like, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bigmark podcast. It's me, your host, Bigmark. If it's your first time watching, welcome. If not, welcome back. Like I always say, if you ever wanted to reach out to the podcast for any reason, hit us up. Let us know if you want to hear about a new topic. Want to let us know how you feel about one of the episodes, or even join us on one of them. I'd always love to have. I always love to have people on. So don't feel shy. Let me know if you want to come on in. Hit us up in the comments. Hit us up in the DMs at the Bigmark Pod, at the Bigmark Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it today. If you want to support the podcast, you're already doing it right now by listening or watching wherever you are right now. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on your whatever platform you like to listen to. If you want to support even more, tell your friends, like and subscribe, engage with the podcast, as they say. And then if you really want to go that extra mile, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/thebigmarkpod. And there's a couple different tiers there to check out. So again, thank you all for being here tonight. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth about, another thing, I guess, about me. Sorry, I feel like a lot of these episodes have just been very Bigmark centered. Maybe not necessarily just on topics, but hopefully it can cover a broader range here. And, if you suffer from the same affliction or have dealt with it in the past as well, you might know exactly what I'm talking about. And we're talking about hernias today. If you've watched my episodes closely or followed along, especially recently, I've talked a lot about this injury that I have. It's an umbilical hernia. And it is worthy of surgery, and we'll get into a little bit more, which is fairly common. It's more than common. Once you have a hernia, most of them do require surgery. But again, mine is eligible for that. But my doctors have told me I have to lose 100 pounds before the surgery. So I'm working on that. Like I said in previous episodes, you'll see me talk about all that, but I want to talk about exactly what we're talking about today. We'll basically kind of break down what they are, why they happen, how to prevent them, and what happens if you do need that surgery. So don't worry, we'll take you through. So essentially, a hernia is basically a weakening in your fascia, which is like the tissue that kind of holds your muscles together. Because essentially your muscles, they're, series of fibers. If you've ever seen an anatomy diagram of a muscle, if you cut it in half, it looks like a bunch of little sausages kind of all put together. These long little sausages are your muscle fibers. And those are what contract and make your muscles grow, make your muscles move. However, it's basically like a bundle of these little tubes, like I said. So the fascia kind of goes around. It's like the casing of the sausage around the sausages, essentially, if we're going to keep using that metaphor. But that kind of keeps everything together, or else when your muscles would contract, they could kind of bulge out in all these different ways and not necessarily put the force where you need them to and guide, because again, your muscles that's exactly what they're doing, is trying to create force along certain axes. So regardless, your fascia is there to kind of keep everything in place. And sometimes that fascia can get injured or torn or whatever, or anything like that. And essentially your muscle can kind of bulge through that. So you can get a hernia in other places. Usually it doesn't really happen it only happens, I should say, in a few different places. But essentially there's a tear there, and your muscles, or in some circumstances, fatty tissue, or even other organs can kind of be pushing through that hole. So you have to get that checked out most of the time. If you do ever feel, any bulging or anything that's kind of sticking out, or, you feel like you have to push back in or anything like that, any sensations like that, you should definitely go get that checked out. Make sure it is something you take care of. Imagine, that tear, it's kind of like a tear in your jeans. that tear can definitely get worse, or it can kind of stay the same for a long time. So it kind of really depends. So you have to get that checked out, right? So, like I said, there's different types of hernias. Inguinal or in your groin is basically the most common. Lots of men have had it. I think a buddy of mine, it's usually like your upper groin. Pretty sure a buddy, Daryl Watt, I played with at Western, football player, teammate of mine. I'm pretty sure he had one like in first year and had to get it surgerized like right away. So pretty common. I think they call that a sports hernia. There's hiatal, which is like around the stomach area. That's like around the actual muscles of your stomach. There's acid reflux connection to that. Umbilical around your belly button, which is what I have, is actually common in infants and sometimes in adults. Essentially, you have this tear in your abdominal wall. Your abdominal wall is like several layers of tissue, but they're not all that thick. And it actually is some of your like intestine kind of like pushing through. So I've definitely noticed like sometimes if I eat too much or, eat inflammatory foods as we call them these days, I feel that a little bit more just because my gut's inflamed and all that stuff. And then incisional after surgery. So where the surgery actually happens, sometimes the healing area kind of gives way, and that's like a different type of hernia, right? So you want to always avoid those as well. Around 1 in 10 people will develop a hernia at some point in their lives. So, if it hasn't happened to you, you just haven't sneezed hard enough yet. So the mechanics of a hernia are basically where pressure meets weakness. So if there's any, like I said, that fascia is meant to resist the forces of your muscles working. And, during heavy lifting, straining, during, when you're on the toilet, chronic cough, pregnancy, obesity, all these things are common culprits of this extra pressure on your abdominal wall or that fascial wall that will cause the tear. It's obviously not always about what you lift, it's how you lift. Obviously, there's lots of very strong athletes out there that lift a lot, but sometimes things happen in the gym. Sometimes there's ego lifting, skipping core work. But sometimes hernias can just kind of happen like kind of from repetitive stress. Even standing too long or bad posture can actually lead to it. So where I think I got mine was when I was playing in a band a few years ago called Elixir, Strathcona, whatever you want to call us. We had two different names. If I ever talk about an old band called Elixir, you know what I'm talking about. There's an old band, and because it's now under the name Coda Facto, but at the time it was called Elixir. Let's just put it that way. See, this is how confusing it is. Don't get me started. I was playing with this other band, and it was more of a rock band, so I had like a big fat bass amp, which is unfortunate because bass amps are really fucking heavy, and they kind of have to be. There are some like really lightweight ones, but they're like extremely expensive because there's some crazy technology that has to go into these things that it's still able to like deliver low end without kind of like rumbling itself apart or whatever. I used to have a big 8x10 fridge, huge giant amp, but I don't think that's what did it. I had a 4x10, a smaller one. But what I used to have to do every practice, which was 3 times a week, would lug this fucking thing first. I mean, the first time I ever had to do it all the way up these stairs and like over a pew. It was like in a church. So it was like over a pew. And I'm pretty sure doing that over and over. And it was like a kind of like a twist thing. I'm pretty sure that's what did it. Like I never felt like one time, but I just noticed all of a sudden, I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? So, and then after that, continued to do that for a while. And then was also like lifting kegs and stuff for work. So it definitely didn't help. And for me, it definitely hurts when I'm like kind of like sitting and crouched more. So like sitting and driving and stuff definitely wasn't helping at all. So, again, it was kind of one of these things that bugged me for a while and was starting to hurt a little bit more. So I went to go get it checked out. I guess I would have I don't even know if I went through my family doctor, but regardless, there's a visible hernia there. So I knew eventually I had to get it checked out. And these are some kind of common symptoms and when you should also go to get it checked out as well, just like I do, when to kind of actually worry about going and get it checked out. So common signs of visible lump or palpable lump, often in the groin or abdomen, or mine, like I said, is around my belly button. Pain or discomfort when bending, coughing or lifting, pressure or heaviness feeling. And for hiatal hernias, heartburn, reflux, trouble swallowing, those are the ones like around the stomach we were talking about. My buddy actually has one like around his trachea because he vomited so many times. Or I guess around his esophagus, I should say. It's an esophageal hernia. And because he's just vomited so many times when he was really, really sick, he was in hospital. And he like burps every once in a while because like air almost gets like trapped in it. So it's a fucking trip. But when it gets serious, it's painful, red, you feel nauseous, go to a doctor. Definitely go to a doctor. It can mean the hernia is trapped or strangulated. And that's essentially, it's almost like, again, the muscle or organ or whatever tissue that's pushing through there almost kind of can get like twisted around there like a balloon knot. And then that can cut off blood flow and do all kinds of shit like that. So again, something sticking out that shouldn't be, go get it checked out. There are some non-surgical options. You can obviously watch it. If it's small, not painful, you can lose weight, avoid heavy strain, lifestyle changes, managing constipation and things like that help, and making sure that, again, like I said, you're avoiding some of these inflammatory foods. Open surgery versus laparoscopic. Usually it's a laparoscopic surgery, pretty minimally invasive. There's a mesh reinforcement, or sometimes they just suture up the area and let it heal on its own. Obviously, the mesh is kind of like essentially like a bike tire replacement. You're going to be placing this mesh, this surgical mesh over it, and it's kind of embedded. But like what I worry about that is that it's a foreign object in your body, something that your body can reject. I mean, I know it's a relatively common surgery, but again, it's just something that I would like to avoid. And yes, it'll probably be like the actual strongest part of my abdominal wall, but what about the edges of that? So I would like to preferably go with just the classic technique. So I went, and I'm going to try to continue to go to this clinic called the Shouldes Clinic, and it's in Thornhill, Ontario, kind of just outside Toronto. And they're phenomenal. It's beautiful campus, like beautiful, nice kept grounds, like, cause you stay over there for a couple nights. So it's like, you got to kind of be around there, but like doctors were really thorough. They were supposed to give me a call with, information with the nutritionist, because again, when they were doing my initial checkup, like my initial, intake, they essentially assessed me and said that I was going to have to lose 100 pounds. So I'm pretty sure at the time I wasn't much over 350 pounds. But at that point they told me to lose 100. So if I was going down to 250, even conservatively, that's 15 pounds under my lean body mass, which is like, if I had 0% body fat, I would be like 265. So it's like, I'd have to lose muscle mass. It doesn't sound super healthy, but I'm going to and like I've mentioned in earlier episodes, I'm going to try to lose a significant amount of weight and then go back to them and kind of be like, all right, I'm under 300, or I'm like 280 or something like that, which is like pretty good, or even 265. But there's no way I'm going to be getting down to 0% body fat. So I might have to, I don't know how you lose muscle mass in a healthy way. I guess you just like try not to strength train. Anyway, recovery usually after either surgery is 2 to 6 weeks. And I think that's another thing too. You want to lose weight, you want to be healthy going into surgery, because then you're going to be it's going to help you recover, because you're going to also be not only easier for them to do the surgery without a lot of adipose fat, but also you're just going to be in a healthier state to recover. It's a gradual return to lifting and physical activity. And obviously you have to follow the post-op instructions, which will probably be very strict on what you can and can't do, because you don't want to re-aggravate that hernia, that's for sure. Essentially, with prevention, if you don't have a hernia, or if you are working on a hernia that's not too severe, I guess, work on strengthening those core muscles. Practice safe lifting technique. Remember, bend with the knees. Maintain a healthy weight. Eat fiber, which will kind of help avoid straining, so you're not getting all backed up in there, things like that. Quit smoking. So if you have chronic cough from smoking, it actually weakens the tissue as well, which makes sense. You can't just kind of keep patching it up. You want to kind of keep the structure strong. And again, like I said, humans are incredibly capable of lifting mega weight, which takes an extremely strong abdominal wall. Everything starts from your core. So make sure your core is super strong. Don't delay getting checked if you feel like something's there. Again, like I said, things can get really dicey. It can cut off blood flow, and it can do all kinds of stuff. Especially, like I said, it's fucking trippy. Like to know it's like your guts are basically coming out of your fucking shit. So there's no medal for toughing out a hernia, only a longer surgery. So again, remember, hernias are common and they are treatable. Early detection is faster and easier recovery, and prevention is all about strength, awareness, and not ignoring your body's signals. Essentially, the older I've become, the more I realize our bodies, kind of do keep score. They wear thin, the strain, the skipped warm-ups, it all adds up. Taking care of yourself isn't soft, it's smart. It's there's going to be all kinds of different things that happen, but if you just try to tough it out and be like, it's just from getting old or whatever, I think that's how you start getting fucking wound up into these traps of old age too, or these senses of being like, oh yeah, he's getting older. He's not going to be, you're not going to be doing as much as you used to be able to do, when you were younger and all this stuff. And it's like, there are examples of not only people, but like professional athletes, but other people too, kind of, being active and strong and flexible and nimble and able to combat falls and all that shit that happens when you're like much older too, well into their 70s, 80s, because again, you don't ever give in to that whole fact, that self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing of like, oh yeah, you're starting to get old now. Like, honestly, I'm 34 right now. It's essentially like I'm getting to like the peak of my like testosterone production, and this is where it kind of like plateaus for a long time, but like it's where the old man, as they call it, old man strength starts to kick in. But that means like, again, that you have this like, as you where you are in your life does change, but like, if you are continually on top of things, you can really maintain a lot of things, right? So again, get on top of things. Don't give in to the stereotypes of getting old. Stay strong. Keep weightlifting. Strong legs, strong core. Those things will make you live forever. Make sure you check in with your doctor and take care of your health. If you ever have any questions or anything, or if you ever want to talk about it, I'm not obviously a fucking professional, but I know what I've been through at least, and I'd love to hear from y'all. So hit me up, let me know, hit me back just to chat. Truly yours. This is Bigmark. Thank y'all for listening. We'll see you next week. Love y'all. Peace.